I liked how it had elements of like the Orwellian 1984 in it as well, because like I just read that this year, and you see this like the cameras everywhere. The government knows everything. You don't know what they know. And then there's also the idea of the utopia in Capitol that blinds the people in Capitol to the gruesome like acts that are being committed in the Hunger Games. But like that was pretty cool. And then because you can see that build up, like the unrest that's starting to build, like in 1984, the main character, he sees that unrest, and it's a lot like that with Katniss. She's beginning to get that worldview, like what's going on everywhere else.
Right.
But because the government wants to shelter everyone off to control it.
And what's very much like the same thing, she experiences very much the same thing that Winston does in 1984, which I love and have read a million times, in that the government has no interest in her knowing the truth about anything. You know, so in the same way in 1984 that you're just fed the stream of lies, so it is, you know, for her. You know, whatever's on the television is probably untrue. You know, they're feeding a lot of information in order to keep you ignorant or off balance or confused. And that's their only access to any sort of news. So it's a huge... another part of this book is about that, about the power of the media to influence a person's life and their thinking, and how powerful you are when you control the only source of information.
Here's a weird parallel. Did you intentionally bring in 13 districts to compare to the 13 original colonies?
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
I
did. You know, because it's in North America. This is the new United States, although it's also part of Canada. And I thought, when I was setting it up, how many should there be? I was like, well, there were 13.
How about
There's
13?
12. Yeah, because I thought, you know, with American history that would resonate for kids and things.
Going along with the American history thing, could the location of District 13 like go along with the Manhattan Project at all? Because it was the development of the nuclear weapons, and we don't know where it is, but we know it's beyond District 12, which is the Appalachians.
And if
You
they're
have
gonna
to
live,
just wait and see.
I mean, if they're going to live underground, they can live in the subway system underneath New York.
Yeah.
You'll have to wait and see. I can't. If I start talking on that, I would have to explain so many things that we'd be halfway through. Yeah. No, I can't tell that part.
Where is the Capitol located?
Well, I'm telling you, it's in the Rockies, and that's as much as I tell you. Look at you. I hate you so much. You know, and you won't tell me.
The Capitol's the center, and they're all located around them. So it would be possible for, say, District 4 to have an ocean, where next to it District 5 doesn't.
Oh, absolutely.
First that was
You
what
do
kind of
know. You
confused
do
it for
absolutely
me.
know that District 4 is on an ocean. You know, it's on a coastline somewhere, but, you know, we have a lot of coastline. And also, you know, there have been changes from environmental disasters and whatnot. Everything is not exactly as we see it. I mean, we're centuries in the future, you know, so there are differences.
And they're not necessarily in numerical order.
Oh, no, they're not
next
in
to one
numerical
another,
order at all.
So
They're
they
not,
could be
no,
anywhere.
they're dotted around.
You kind of dance around it, but do you think it's global warming has anything to do with that?
I'm certain that was a factor.
Okay.
I mean, you know, probably the factors that you always see bringing people to this dire state in humanity, you know, that we destroyed the environment, that, you know, wars got out of control, that nuclear weapons went too far. Maybe there was
So
an
you say-
asteroid. I
yeah,
don't know.
'cause you saved a lot of storms
but it's the idea is that humanity has brought this about.
Okay.
Really, I mean that if there were climate factors that were that destructive, they were brought about through human action.
Okay.
You talk in the first book about explaining the past arenas and how they are now historic
resorts.
sites that people
They're
go and
vacation
visit,
resorts, yeah.
where they go and take pictures and have picnics and such. How do you feel about
Oh, this is where he died.
U.S. battlefields
Well,
that people go
that is
to?
such a loaded question for me. I thought we would get to it at some point. I was telling you about my dad, that he was career Air Force, he was a military specialist, he was a doctor of political science, and he knew he was a historian. when I was a child, now I don't know if this went on before he went to Vietnam, but he came back, you know, he went the year I was 6. I do remember being at parade grounds and battlefields even earlier than that. But after he got back, and this may have been going on before and I don't remember that much about it, my father's, you know, I had a lifetime of homeschooling and war, essentially. When we went on vacations, we were very often going to battlefields or war sites, monuments. And to go to a battlefield with my father was not to go look at a field and get a postcard. It was to go and then hear the entire history of every battle that played out in that war. And often, if we were, part of the time we lived over in Europe, he was stationed over there. It was just heaven for him because there had been, you know, there was just thousands of years of warfare that had happened anywhere you looked, you know. So we were constantly being educated about different types of war throughout history. It was very, very important to him that we understood about war, and not in a superficial way, in the most complex way that he could get across to us from a very early age. And I think part of that was who he was, because he did teach and he was a historian, and I think part of it was his experience of having been through a war, and it being very important for us to distinguish ultimately the difference between a war that was necessary and one that was not, and why wars were fought, and when you could make that huge choice, which would have ultimately such catastrophic effects, when it was valid to do that and when it was not. And so yes, battlefields. I went there on vacation, many of them.
How big are the arenas?
It depends. They change in size. Some are very large and take up acres and acres and acres.
Like the one in the Hunger
In the first
Games.
book, it's a large arena. Other one, and because of that, it was when I was creating the second arena, it's why it's very small and contained, and it's circular. There are no corners to hide in. And also because, well, you know, because you've read it, because of the image of the clock, you know, so I need it round.
It was a little confusing, just where would, the Capitol can only be so big, so where are they going to put 74 arenas? I mean, is it outside?
Yeah, it's not in the Capitol.
Right.
No, no.
Okay.
You've got to fly to get there.
Okay. So would that be in like a different continent?
I don't think it would be in a different
There's
continent.
conveniently a large ocean to the west of North America.
If they needed an ocean, they would make it.
Yeah.
If they needed, you know, a water. I mean, these are very intricate games, arenas. You know, they take years to build, most of them. They're designed long in advance. Many are going on at one time. You know, and you know, and then you know, I think, for instance, I think the Quarter Quell Arena is a little extra special because it's a Quarter Quell one. They put a little bit more time, thought, and money probably into it. Sometimes they're more simple thematic things, like it's like the Arctic out there, or it's a desert or whatever, and they have to survive in certain kind of conditions. And then sometimes they are more complicated, not just that anything can jump out at you at any time, but you have to think, like in the Quarter Quell, in that arena, you know, that's an arena you have to figure out. You know what I mean? It's a game within the game, is whether or not you can understand why certain things are triggering at certain times of the day.
Just with the arenas, there was a really powerful line right when she gets into the second arena, and she looks around and there's like water everywhere, and she says, "This is no place for a girl on fire."
Right.
I just love the line.